is rigged. Why do we care? There is voter fraud. Well, because when you do it so extremely as he has, it's inciting. It's making people angry, and the fear then becomes violence. So we just heard the Milwaukee County Sheriff Clark, who's become a very big deal in American politics. He was talking about this. Listen to it.
They want you to give up, folks. They want you to say to hell with it. It's fixed, it's rigged, and it is. But they want you to just say to hell with it, I'm not going to participate. That's what they're hoping for. It's not going to work. It is not going to work. Stay strong. Find new voters. Get them to the polls. Like I said, and I'll continue to say, it is pitchfork and torches time in America.
They love it there, but could people take the message the wrong way?
What is the wrong way? I mean, what is the message of pitchforks and torches?
Well, it sounds like angry townsfolk going to storm some situation that they are against, right? Whether it's Frankenstein or whatever they're coming after.
So what's the other message?
And that's the question, right? Good one. Thank you very much.
You're
Could have
welcome.
answered it. That would have made this segment a lot shorter. Let's bring in David Frum, a senior editor at The Atlantic, who is a speechwriter for President George W. Bush, and Sarah Murray, CNN political reporter who's been on the trail with Trump and knows what it's like to be a reporter in the environment of all this anger. So, Sarah, let me start with you. You know, a lot of talk is just political talk. It's just rhetoric. It gets people heated up. But this seems to be different, that it's not just contrary, it's hostile, and it's getting to be potentially violent. What has been your experience?
Well, I think it is different because you have a candidate now talking about a rigged election system, essentially trying to undermine the integrity of our American elections. And this is part of what makes America such a great country, is that we have an open, free, decentralized democracy. It is extremely, extremely difficult to rig an American election in a widespread way because of that. But this feeds into the narrative for Donald Trump that the fix is in, that everything is not only stacked against him, but stacked against regular working class voters, whether that means the political establishment, whether that means the media, or whether in this case that means the election system. And it's particularly worrisome because it could have the impact of not only voter intimidation, but also voter suppression. It could just inspire people to stay home. And in many ways, this is actually what the Trump campaign is aiming for. They are hoping that this will fire up Donald Trump's supporters and that it will keep young voters, will keep minority voters just depressed enough so they don't show up on Election Day.
David, what do you think the consequences are of all of this language and the idea that there's tremendous voter fraud and that it's pitchforks and torches time?
Well, I think we'll have almost the opposite effect of what Sarah just said. Look, 1 out of 10, maybe 1 out of 100 hotheads hears this kind of language and decides to do something terrible. But 9 out of 10 or 99 out of 100 people who hear it, who believe it, will be discouraged. As Sheriff Clark said, and actually saw the tension of what he was saying in his remarks, most of you will hear this and say, well, in that case, I'll stay home. Donald Trump's whole hope is to immobilize people who regularly do not vote, down market white people, especially males, people who probably didn't vote in 2012 because they didn't see the point, to get them to the polls. And the way, as President Obama showed in 2012, you get people who don't vote much to go to the polls, is you make them believe that their votes matter, that they're powerful. This is the one time in 4 years you can really make the mightiest people in the country quake before you. If you tell them it's hopeless, it's doomed, you're rigged, yeah, somebody may throw a brick through a window or worse, but more people will say, in that case, I'm just going to open another beer and stay home on this couch. And that has terrible repercussions, by the way, for down-ballot Republicans to the extent that anybody believes Donald Trump.
The irony is that Clark is saying what they want you to think, what they want you to think. He's really talking about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the one who's saying the system's broken. You shouldn't even get out. So it's odd that he's trying to help Trump by giving a message that may not help there. But what is your take, David, on the impact of someone like a Sheriff Clark with the hat pulled low, you can't see his eyes, talking about pitchforks and torches and all that other nonsense?
Well, Sheriff Clark tweeted out an image. It was actually a piece of clip art that showed people with torches and pitchforks, and they were really old. And I said, my reaction was, it looked like the 30-year cast reunion of Young Frankenstein. Look, the fact is the Republican coalition, the Republican coalition skews old. It is so that there is a problem with they're not people who are likely to throw bricks, but the voters whom Trump wants, they skew whiter and younger. They are low turnout voters, people with weak commitment to the political system, and the reason they give for not voting is they think the system is rigged. When you empower them, you may not rev them up, you may sedate them, and that's doom not only for Trump but for down ballot Republicans.
I don't know, David. I find your assessment comforting. I mean, staying home and cracking open a beer, that's fine. You know, I think
More of
that.
a
No, it's not fine. Everybody should vote.
Well, sure.
Everybody should vote.
Sure, yeah, I get that.
Exercise
message.
the franchise.
But I'm more concerned about violence. And let's face it, we've already seen some, Sarah. I mean, the animosity certainly towards the press. You've been subject to this at Trump rallies. It's real.
Well, and I think that's the reality is, you know, you're right. A lot of people, David, will just sort of brush this off and call it political rhetoric, but a lot of people don't. And we see that day in and day out because people do turn out for Donald Trump rallies by the thousands. And these people, they're angry. They're angry because they feel like the economy has left them behind, because their politicians have left them behind, because they don't feel a part of their community in whatever way they did before. And they want someone to help channel that anger. And Donald Trump has really done that. And at every turn when there is an opportunity to turn down the temperature, and I feel like, you know, the wake of this attack on the North Carolina GOP is a good example. Donald Trump doesn't turn it down. He ratchets it up, and day to day on the campaign trail, that means that if you're a member of the media, you walk into an event to thousands of people screaming at you, flipping you off, telling you, you know, that you suck. So there is a real impact of this.
David, Sarah, thank you very much for your
you.
take on all of this. Great to talk to you.
What is your take on this situation? Tweet us at New Day or post your comment on Facebook.com/New Day. We're following a lot of news this morning. We have the latest from the front lines of the battle for Mosul. Let's get to it.